Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/entitled Parent Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. Angry random Karen doesn't like where I parked. After that, nice old lady gets help. Mean old lady gets arrested. And after that, am I the jerk for asking to be paid after babysitting my niece for over a year? Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen has to babysit. I feel bad for whoever has to put up with me. So please smash that like button, and if you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. Angry random Karen doesn't like where I parked. Okay, so needed context. The store I work at has a parking lot on either side of the building, front and back. The back lot is where the employee parking is and where we also park our work vans. The front lot very rarely fills up. But last week, there was some construction done to the building, so there were work trucks filling up the front lot. Also, the back door to our store had been replaced, but the auto-close arm wasn't, so you have to hold the door and shut it slowly, or else it slams shut and it's super loud. For the purpose of this story, I am Jason, the lady I had the entanglement with is Karen, and my boss is Scott. Sundays are my late start days, where I come in after the store has already opened to run my van route. I pulled into the back lot in my POV, wearing my uniform hoodie and polo shirt. Both have the store logo on them. I also usually wear a black unmarked hat as well. So I park, and as I'm getting out of my car, the lady in the car next to me stops pulling out of her spot and rolls down her window. The following conversation ensues. Karen: "Excuse me, you can't park there." Me: "I sure can." Karen: "You sure can't. An employee just yelled at me for parking back here. You have to go around front." Me: "No, it's okay. I work here." "Then why aren't you in uniform?" Me: points to my shirt logo. "I am in uniform." "Where's your badge?" "I don't have one." "Well, the other guy was wearing one." Me: "My manager wears a tag that says manager because we all wear the same polo shirt." "How am I supposed to know that?" I'm speechless. Karen: "Whatever. Your customer service sucks anyway. When I get in there, I'm telling your manager." Me: "Great. He's the one with the manager badge." At this point, I'd gotten my bag out of my back seat and had started walking towards the store. Karen: "Hey, jerk. I'm still talking to you." I'm about to turn around and say something when I guess Scott heard the commotion and decided to try and get me out of a tough spot in his own way. He throws the back door open and yells, "Jason, what the heck are you late?" Me: "This woman told me I can't park here." Karen: "He doesn't even work here." Scott: "Ma'am, I asked you to pull around front to the customer parking." "You can't treat your employees that way." Scott: "I thought you said he doesn't work here." By now, I've made it into the store and Scott waves me in, making full eye contact with Karen. He moves his hand and lets the door slam shut over top of what she was yelling at him. Unfortunately, I wasn't there long enough to see if she actually came in and tried to deal with him or not. Would you move to a different parking spot if Karen told you to, or not? Please let us know. You will if you know what's good for you. Nice old lady gets help. Mean old lady gets arrested. I'll start with some background information. I'm about 6 feet tall. I have long hair for a guy, and I'm about 16 years old, and I'm apparently an old person magnet in stores. I'll be referring to the Karen as mean old lady. Okay, so today was a strange day. I was just studying for my test for tomorrow when I realized that I ran out of snacks. It was about 10 a.m. at the time, so I figured I'd just go to the big chain store a few blocks away from my house. Looking back, I should have known most old people shop at those hours in my hometown, but I was just hungry for snacks. I am not really scary, but because of my purple jacket, black pants, and man bun, and earphones in blasting rap music, I didn't really look like an employee, or so I thought. I was just browsing the store to find some snacks and maybe something for dinner that day. As I ducked to search between the salted nuts for a decent-looking bag, I felt a hard tap on my shoulder. I turned my music off and turned around, only to see a nice old lady asking me if I could help her. I always get asked to help by old ladies. I don't know why, but they always seem to like me. So I say, "Sure, what can I help with?" She says that she wants a microwave, but she can't lift it into her cart. I tell her that I will come with her so I can help. I already had everything I needed now, so I just tag along with the nice old lady and help her with putting it in her cart and onto the belt. I kept talking to the nice old lady, and she asked me why I was so nice to her. So I say that I just try to be nice to help elderly people when I can. She tried to pay for my snacks too, but I rejected her offer because I had my card ready already. When I put her microwave in her trunk, she slid a €10 bill into my hand and said it was good to see that some people still behave well. After the nice old lady drives off, I realized that I forgot to buy potatoes for dinner, so I ran home, dropped everything off, and went back in. This time was less wholesome. I entered the store and went immediately to the potatoes. I tried looking for the best bag because the chain was known for their potatoes that would have more black spots than any other store, so I find a nice bag of good-looking big potatoes. As I'm lifting the big bag onto my cart, I hear a groan and tapping of a shoe on the tiled floor. So thinking that I was standing in the way, I try to move aside, but the mean old lady isn't having it. She starts to groan even louder. Knowing that I messed up, I turn around and guess what I see? A not-so-nice-looking old lady. She was probably around 60, but was wearing clothes like a 20-year-old would wear. I'm talking a crop top and light blue jeans 3 sizes too small with sandals on. And of course, she had the haircut, but more gray than blonde. I try not to judge anyone, but she was on another level. She loudly said, "Finally, I've been trying to get your attention for at least 5 minutes now." I say sorry, I wasn't paying attention. She then started screaming at me about how she demands me, not asking, but demanding, that I help her put her stuff in her car after she pays for it. I tell her that I'm not going to do it because she screamed at me. She then says, "You have no choice. You have to. It's your job. I saw you outside helping the other lady 15 minutes ago." I tell her, first of all, I am not an employee here. And second of all, if I was, I'd decline to help you due to your behavior against me just now. Then I try to walk away, but she now is in Alpha Karen mode, so she tries to push me aside. She was kind of on the bigger side, so her push with all force was kind of harder than I expected. I ended up tripping over a tile that sticks out partially and faceplant into the aisle next to me. The Karen, knowing what she did, screamed, "Ah, no, don't touch me." I was completely stunned by her actions, so didn't know what to say. So an employee arrives and she starts crying and telling him her lies while they walk to the closest bench so she can sit to rest after being jumped. I try to get back up myself, but due to my bad landing, I managed to hurt my back and couldn't balance myself properly, so I just decided to lay down and wait until someone arrives. Luckily, an old man saw everything and came up to me to help me up. I said I can wait and that I didn't want him to hurt his back helping me up, but the old guy wasn't taking no for an answer. He just picked me up gently and gave me his cane to lean on and giggled. "My wife makes me use it just in case, but I don't need it now." As soon as I thank him, the manager arrives with a not-so-happy look, until he sees me barely being able to stand and the old man. He asks me what happened, and I tell him my story, and the old guy backs me up. He then said to me that the police are already on their way and that we can stay in his office until they get there. As soon as we hear sirens, I feel scared. I'm a boy with a man bun and am being accused of assaulting an old lady, so in my head, my life is over. I'm trying not to puke out the stress while we wait. After mean old lady did her story and said I should be fired to the police because the police can hire me from a store I don't work at. They come to me and start asking me questions. The old guy is still with us and getting bored. He just says, "Jim," apparently the manager's name, "just show them the camera footage instead of wasting this kid's time." The manager says okay here and turns his screen to show us the entire thing on security footage. I was so relieved to know that I had proof now. After 10 minutes, he asks if I would like to press charges. I said I'll contact him with my parents later. He gives me his details and we walk out. Me too, but slowly. The officer then cuffs the mean old lady and she keeps screaming all the way to the car. The old man said he was the manager's old supervisor and was also shopping for dinner that day when he noticed Karen bullying customers. We laughed a little bit and I ended up buying his groceries as a thank you for helping me, and I'm now in the hospital waiting for the results, but they think my back will be fine. Was it worth it? Probably not. Was it on purpose? Probably not. Did she deserve it? Definitely. I may be the jerk for not helping an elderly lady, but she was well capable of it if she can push me to the floor. Would you help a Karen in the store if she was mean to you or not? Please let us know. You better, or you might end up like our boy here. Am I the jerk for asking to be paid after babysitting my niece for over a year? I'm 20, female, and my niece is a year and a half old, and I've been my sister's, 27, female, only babysitter since she was born. My mom occasionally babysits, but only about once a month as she lives 45 minutes away from my sister, and I only live 15 minutes away. Well, my sister has been asking me to babysit a lot recently. For example, in the past week, I've babysat 5 days, and it's not just for an hour. Yesterday, I was there from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. I haven't been home for more than a few hours, not sleeping, in days. She made me get somebody to cover my shift at work today so I could babysit, and does this often. She doesn't allow me to eat any food at her house, but I'm also not allowed to take my niece in the car. I've never been pulled over or in any accidents that I was driving, so my only option is to order delivery, which can get expensive. She's told me in the past she's going to start paying me, but the only time she's ever paid me was over New Year's Eve, where she paid $40 for babysitting overnight. My sister just moved over 30 minutes away from me. I told her if she wants me to continue babysitting, I'm going to need to be compensated for the time and money I'm spending in gas and food. She got really upset and told me that I shouldn't want to be paid for spending time with my niece. Am I the jerk? Update. I texted my sister and said, "Look, I love being able to see my niece as much as I do, but I need to start getting paid for babysitting. I would have made $180 at work this weekend, but I lost $130 since you told my boyfriend to tell me to split the $100 with him for gas money. I'm your only babysitter other than mom, but mom barely babysits, and I have been a few days a week. I want $10 an hour. That's lower than you'll find from anyone else in the town where you live." And she responded with, "Kay, I'll find someone else." She then went on to tell me that I need to get my crap from her house by next weekend or it's getting thrown away, and that I shouldn't have came at her instead of trying to have a discussion. She pulled the "you're her aunt" card and said, "You didn't ask to be paid, you demanded." At this point, I kinda lost my crap and told her everything I had wanted to say for years, and she said, "We're done. Delete my number." Done. Thank you everyone for all your advice. While it sucks she reacted this way, I'm extremely proud of myself for finally sticking up for myself after 20 years. Edit. Thank you for the awards. I feel like I should add this. My sister is a stay-at-home mom. Her husband works full-time and is as awful as she is. He fully supports not paying me and doesn't think I should want to be paid for spending time with my niece. They're both massive jerks. Also, thank you for all the kind words. It means a lot. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her sister? Please let us know. Definitely her sister. Karens will continue to be Karens until someone puts them in their place. Thebane of blacksmiths. So, little bit of background. When I was around 14, I got into forging knives with the most basic equipment. Literally just charcoal and fire bricks for the forge, and a hammer and tongs for my actual equipment. And I've been doing this for roughly 6 years like this once or twice a week. When lockdown started, I had a whole lot more time on my hands as my work was closed for 4 months, but reopened with limited hours. So now I have more time, but still have an income, so I decided I'd put a little money into my forge equipment. This happened last week. Out of courtesy to my neighbors, I told all my neighbors that I'd be making more noise as I was picking up the frequency that I used my forge as I got new equipment. All of who were fine with it, one of them being excited as he wanted me to make him a knife, all except one. My next door neighbor, who I'll call Karen. Now, Karen used to be friendly towards my family until about 4 years ago due to her not respecting our political views, so we stopped inviting her over and tended to avoid her since she'd try to make arguments at every turn. At most, I'll say good morning and ask, "How are you?" Anyways, I'm kind of off track. The issue she had with it was, "I don't want you polluting my yard with the smoke it's gonna make." And despite me explaining it's a propane forge, it doesn't produce much of any smoke, she still demanded that I don't do it. I ignored that, of course, as she cannot tell me what I can and can't do on my property, and it was really just a formality to let my neighbors know. So I set up my forge in my backyard, put down gravel so there wasn't any fire hazard, lined it with bricks, and was putting the forge together and fixing it to the large flat stone I decided to set it on. She comes over as I'm doing this and walks into my backyard without me noticing and opens up with, "I said you can't do that." I jump as I had no clue she's there, and that's when the fun starts. She begins yelling about how I said I wouldn't put anything back there. I didn't. How she'd get the HOA involved, of which our neighborhood doesn't have one. And when I informed them of that, she threatened to call the police, which was ridiculous. I responded with, "Get off my land before I call the cops on you." And she left, and I kept setting up my forge. Past a week, I treat the forge with no issues, and as of 2 days ago, I was working on my first knife out of it when a guy walks up to my fence and asks if I was the homeowner. I respond, yes, look up from my forge, and who's about 50 feet away on the sidewalk with her arms crossed and a smug look on her face? Karen. So I ask, what can I do for him? And he says, "I'm with the county. I'm a building inspector, and I got a report from your neighbors that you are building a permanent structure without a permit." I say, "No, last thing I built was this," and gestured at my forge. He looks around and says, "Are you planning on building anything or expanding any existing structures?" I respond, "Nope," and he simply writes it down and he asks what it is, and me and him chat about the forge for about 15 minutes before Karen, irritated because I'm not getting in trouble, storms over and in her shrill, annoying voice demands, "What are you doing? He broke county ordinance, so make him get rid of it." And the following conversation was essentially just, "No, I didn't." "Yeah, nothing's wrong here," and ended with her walking off and then driving off in her SUV. The inspector was cool and we chatted for a bit longer. Cut to yesterday. I walk out to start the forge, and while I'm getting ready to start the propane, I notice something pretty important. The line feeding into my forge is cut, and the bracket and copper tube on the tank is bent inwards, with one of the bricks from the border of the gravel laying about 6 feet away in the grass. I'm confused for a minute before realizing what happened here. I take out my phone to check my backyard motion camera to see if there's any movement. Sure enough, there was movement through the night. The normal wildlife, a fox, 2 raccoons running outside the fence, a house cat, and Karen, walking into my backyard with what looked like garden shears. And about 5 minutes later, her jogging out of my yard. So after downloading the footage to my phone and computer, taking pictures of the damage, and ordering new parts for my forge, I called the non-emergency police number and talked with the police, shared the footage with them, and they wrote down some info and walked over to her house and tried to get an explanation. She just yelled at them until they had heard enough and placed her under arrest, which didn't exactly calm her down as she was wailing and screeching like a banshee the whole way to the car, yelling some pretty harsh things at me, the officers, and another neighbor as he walked out and asked me what was happening. As of right now, she's facing 1 charge of breaking and entering, 1 charge of vandalism, 1 charge of disorderly conduct, and 1 charge of resisting arrest, as she kicked one of the officers while they put her in the car. I have an appointment with a small claims lawyer tomorrow, and me and my dad have been laughing our butts off at how crazy she was. And to Karen, if you see this, as I know you're on Reddit, I'll see you in court. Hope your night in the county jail was pleasant. Thank you all for reading, and let me know if there's any way I can improve the structure of the story, as I don't think I'm too good at structuring these stories. 2/17/21, 10:55 p.m. Her family has called me 3 times today trying to get me to drop charges, each person straying from slightly entitled reasonings to inane babbling. I've informed each one that I was recording at the beginning of each call. Her son called and begged me to drop charges. When I told him, as any reasonable person would, no, as it could have hurt me, I distinctly remember he called me an insensitive jerkhead and proceeded to call me quite a few names. And when I reminded him I was recording the call, he went down the "I didn't give you consent to record me" path. He hung up as soon as I pointed out I had a recording of this. Do you have any hobbies of creating things like OP does? If so, what do you create? Please let us know. Chaos wherever I go. Am I the jerk for how I reacted when my fiance dropped our son off at my workplace? I, male 27, am a nurse. My fiance and I have a 1-year-old baby boy. Fiance doesn't work. She decided to leave her previous job and stay at home. We've agreed that since I'm the one working, she's the one handling home chores. Our son's care is shared, meaning there are times when I handle his feeding, bathing, cleaning, etc. However, I made it clear that when it's time for work, she should be taking responsibility. So far, everything has been going according to what we agreed upon, but recently she's been complaining about my shift hours changing, which is something I can't control, obviously, because currently the unit lacks in nurses, and it's impossible for me to do day-to-day planning because sometimes I'd work 12 hours, sometimes 15. So it's quite unpredictable, but I do my best to spend time at home and give my fiance time for herself. Her cousin's wedding was 2 days ago. That morning, my fiance wanted me to skip work and stay home with our son so she could go to the salon with her sisters. I told her I can't just skip work for the day. I already had a long day shift that started at 7:45 a.m. till 6 p.m. I told her she could either call my mom or just wait for me to come home. She threw a fit and is saying her cousin's wedding was important and I was being unsupportive. I left home after that and started my shift at the hospital. At around 1 p.m., when I was in the middle of work, it usually gets busier in the afternoon, I got a few missed calls from my fiance. Then she sent a text telling me she was at the hospital's parking lot with our son. I went to meet her there. She wanted me to take our son and watch him till she gets back from the salon at 4. I lost it. I told her I can't watch our son when I'm in the middle of my shift, and she kept saying I should just let him stay with me and that it was okay. I absolutely lashed out at her. I called her unreasonable and selfish. She could have let someone watch him, but she said her family was busy. We got into an argument and she left him with me. I had to drive to mom's house and let her have him till I finished my shift. I got home and I was extremely upset. My fiance and her mom said I overreacted and that I was supposed to help since he's my son too. Mother-in-law said I was in the wrong for caring more about work than my own son, but I already told my fiance I was busy. She wanted me to apologize for yelling and causing a scene, but I refused after this. I want to mention that she's normally fine with my work schedule until recently, and whenever there's an event, we'd both make arrangements and I'd stay with our son while she's gone. This time, I told her I was busy and that I won't be allowing her to distract me from work, but she was being stubborn, thinking I'm prioritizing work and being unsupportive. Those might be her mother's words, but my fiance takes responsibility here. The misunderstanding, as my fiance calls it, could have ended with a discussion, but her mother is determined to paint me as the bad parent who isn't pulling weight and taking part in responsibility in caring for our son. I'm tired of her and how she keeps judging me while ignoring her daughter's behavior. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk or is his fiance? Please let us know.
The good thing is that they're not married yet. OP still has a chance to not ruin his life.
The entitled mom that I broke with a song and dance. It has been a while since I've been mistaken for working at another market. For a while, it seemed every other month I'd be in a store, shopping comfortably, and somebody would come out of the woodwork and demand help, recognizing me from Failmart. But with lockdown and the masks, I've been happily incognito wherever I've gone in search of better prices and selection from the Cult of Sam. At Failmart, I moved to another position from the pharmacy and now work the door, handing out masks and wiping down carts. It's a terrible job, but I'm making more money doing this than any other job, so figure that one out. I've also changed my look. I'm no longer a rock and roll yeti with long hair and band t-shirts, but dress more like a respectable member of society. I have discovered I'm quite the clothes horse. A fancy wool overcoat, a green vintage army jacket, a leather biker jacket, whatever I feel like tossing on that day. Hats, different shoes, various different pants. The point I'm making is I do not look like my Failmart alter ego when I'm out and about. I wear a black ball cap, a black faux military coat, and a name tag. I wear this day in and day out, but never in my civilian life. With the addition of the mask, it's difficult for the customers to recognize me. However, big snowstorm heading into my area, forecasting a foot of snow and sub-zero temperatures. I decide to forego shopping at my home store and head off to another superstore in the area in search of propane, ice melt, batteries, the usual prepper stuff I try to lay in when it's possible I'm going to be snowed in for a few days. Got my cart, listening to the store music playing the same tired 70s and 80s inoffensive fluff they always do. And it happens. I pause to grab a bottle of hot sauce and the much feared call of the entitled customer.
Hey, you.
Nope, not me. Can't be calling for me. I'm in a wool coat and a stylish Stetson. I'm not working. Oh crap. She actually whistled at me. I turn with dread, and yep, there she is. One of my Failmart customers, and one of the more infamous ones to boot. Let me describe this woman. She's basically spherical, a messed up angry face, beady eyes, and has a habit of wearing stained sweats no matter what the weather. She comes into Failmart and demands an electric cart and will get extremely huffy if none are available. I have run my butt ragged trying to meet her demands and never get a thank you. Her daughter once stole someone's cart from her from the bathroom area, but that's a story for another thread. So she's straining the store's electric cart, leaning over the handlebars and glaring at me. For once, her devil spawn are not with her.
Took you long enough. Get me a 40-pound bag of rock salt. Now, I want to get home before the snow.
Now, since I have a lot of time to think at FailMart, I sometimes amuse myself by making up little songs. Anything to make myself giggle and keep my mind off of my soul-sucking job. I glare at this woman, take a deep breath, and off to the races we go. To the tune of Oogie Boogie Song from Nightmare Before Christmas. You're joking, I can't believe my ears. You're joking, you think that I work here? Look at me, dear lady, tell me what you see. I've got no darn name tag, so please just let it be. I start doing a soft shoe dance in my boots, slowly turning about, arms akimbo, showing off my non-FailMart attire. She's now staring at me like I've suddenly grown an extra head and it's making googly faces at her. I don't know why you're thinking that, I help all that I can. But for now, between you and me, I'm not the FailMart man. I grab my cart, spin it around like it's Ginger Rogers, and skip off down the aisle singing, You're joking! I glanced to look over my shoulder right before I took the turn, and she was still sitting there, mouth agape. I couldn't stop grinning the rest of my trip. Entitled parents make my employee cry, get their free meal voucher revoked. Before we begin, a little bit of backstory. I am a manager for a chain sushi restaurant somewhere in the western United States. This restaurant chain offers something very special to a select few customers who either show that they deserve it, aka spend so much on sushi overtime, or make a good enough impression on the staff that they recommend you get one. Doesn't happen nearly as often as you'd think. A set of platinum chopsticks that entitles you to as much free sushi as you can stuff your gut with. The cast. We've got entitled mom. We've got entitled kid. We've got the father, whose sanity I question for staying with this lady. And we've got the employee. The day started off like any other day. Going in at 10:30, calling an all-hands meeting, getting everyone pepped up and ready for the day's opening, prepping counter space and cleaning utensils. You know, typical restaurant stuff. We're about 10 minutes from opening when one of my newer employees walks in. She used her front door key and just came right on in. Unfortunately, entitled kid, entitled mom, and dad all followed in soon after her. At this restaurant, it's custom to seat yourself and a member of waitstaff to come take orders. And when I say custom, I mean there are signs literally every 5 feet on each bench and table side saying to be seated and wait. Now, from this point in the story, I'm piecing everything together from employee's side of the story and what I saw on security tapes after handling the issue in person. The trio walks in. Instead of being seated, walked directly up to the cashier's desk, which there's nobody currently at because we're still 5 minutes from officially opening. Entitled mom. Can we get some dang service? Employee then snaps to attention and hops directly over to the desk. Entitled mom. I want my free sushi, and I want it now. She then slams the platinum chopsticks on the counter and starts spouting off everything on the menu she wanted. Employee verifies that these are her chopsticks with some difficulty. Each pair is specifically registered to one person with a serial number stamped on the side. Employee. Will it just be you ordering today? These chopsticks only entitle the person they're registered with to free food. Entitled mom. No, these chopsticks mean I get as much as I want, and I want enough for me and my family. Employee. I'm very sorry, ma'am, but the contract that you signed to get those chopsticks clearly stated that you were only allowed one serving of your choosing at a time. Plus the... Listen here, you snot-nosed brat. I don't care what you say. You're going to give me my free food, or I'll go to your manager and have you tossed out. Serve me now. It's at this point I'm brought into the picture. Employee comes stumbling into my office, tears streaming down her face, and 3 other employees right behind her to quickly relay the story. I'll spare you the rest of the details, as there was some not-so-clean language spoken between me and entitled mom. But here are some of the highlights. Entitled kid decided it would be a good idea to run around every table and knock over all of the soy sauce bottles, the ones that don't have a lid. Then run over to the drink machine behind the employee's only counter and completely soak himself. Entitled mom started shrieking at the top of her lungs that she's going to get what she wants, and we're going to pay for her son's dry cleaning before throwing the peppermint bowl beside the register across the room. Meanwhile, dad just stands there like this is all normal and smiles. Before everything was said and done, she managed to not only get her platinum chopsticks revoked, but she was also gifted a lovely pair of matching bracelets by a local police officer. Employee was sent home for the rest of the day with full pay while I took over her spot on that shift. Luckily, the rest of the day went smoothly. Edit. Much apologies for not sharing the rest of the details. Unfortunately, I have to cover my butt in case somebody from corporate sees this. I very much like my job title, and I'd very much like to keep it. Now I really want some Chinese food. Do you guys like Chinese food? And if so, what are your favorite items? Please let us know.
Ooh,
Chinese food?
hurry up and finish these stories so we can go to
Panda Express.
Please come watch this video next, you will love it. And join as a channel member today, and we'll give you a special shout out in our next video. And to have us make any kind of video you'd like, just come visit us on Fiverr, link pinned in the comments below.